Hi everyone, how are we doing? And welcome to, I can't believe it, it's the final talk of this Careers Week. It's gone so quickly. For everyone that this is your first talk of Careers Week, Careers Week from Tech Educators is really about inspiring people who are looking to enter the world of tech and say to everyone that actually you don't have to be Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk to get into tech. And in fact, there's a whole world out there of opportunities in the tech space that you can take up and you can own and have a long and fulfilling career in tech. And ultimately, whether that's coming through a coding bootcamp, a school, a college, for university, whatever your journey into tech is, we hope that these talks are able to support you in that journey and inspiring to you. Um, I am absolutely delighted to be able to welcome today Ilona. Ilona is a fantastic member of the Norfolk Tech community, one of our mentors, and also founding member of Women in Tech here in Norwich. So I said I wouldn't do a massive intro to Ilona, and I've just done a little one. Without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Ilona to talk about non-techie tech. So Alona, I'm going to be quiet now and hand over to you. Sorry for partially doing your intro.
Thank you, and thanks for the nice introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm Ilona, and I'm going to be talking to you about non-techie tech. So, just in the few minutes before the call started, I was talking to James about it, and I'm just hoping that it's going to be beneficial to you because I feel like quite a lot of you are probably very technical, and you're probably looking for more technical careers. But then at the same time, there are so many possibilities. In the world of tech, which do not involve coding. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my experience, and in case you find any of that interesting. And okay, so a little agenda. I'll start with my story, then I'm going to be talking about what I actually do day to day. I think talking about day to day is mostly difficult when I try to explain to my family what I do for work. It's like I can never explain it. First of all, because I have to translate all of that into Ukrainian, and I don't have the vocabulary in Ukrainian to kind of talk about what I do for work because I've only worked in tech in the UK. And secondly, because I think people have quite a lot of misconceptions about what it is like to work in tech. And at some point, my dad even said to me that when he got me a programmer's book when I was young, which I only like flicked through, I wasn't that interested. He felt that, oh, so now you finally do that thing that I kind of hinted when you were young. Like, no, no, I don't. Anyway, so then I've also got a section about my skills and what I found useful in my career, the things that are quite transferable from one industry to another. And the main things probably for me were to think about the challenges that I had working in tech as a non-technical person, but then at the same time, what advantages I had over people who are very technical. So let's go into my story. Um, I have a very strong business background. I consider myself to be a business person in tech. So it started with me getting two business degrees. After that, I was a business advisor for a local company here called NWES. Maybe you heard about them, NWES. So what I used to do is I was helping people set businesses up, do their taxation, marketing planning, and just kind of thinking of different aspects of starting and running a business. So if you have any questions about the taxation system in the UK, I'm your girl. Um, yeah, and like
Isn't the
completing.
answer to that everything? What do they tax? Everything. How much
Yeah,
do I have to
yeah,
pay? Lots.
as much as possible, everything. Yeah. So completing all the tax returns and other things used to be something that I did quite a lot of. It doesn't sound very exciting, I know, but I kind of used to enjoy it. Then some other things about me. I really like languages. I speak a few, so I speak five, but fluently only three. But that was the thing that I used to teach. So when I was a student, teaching languages was kind of an easy way of making money at the same time as studying. So I did that. And I taught languages in a few different countries. So I have experience of working in 4 countries so far. And there is a reason why I'm mentioning this. I feel like working in different cultures and different working environments was something that really helped me shape my career. So I've worked in Ukraine, then in Northern Cyprus, in Poland, and in the UK. So I've been in the UK for the last 10 years. I'm kind of hoping that I would get to experience some other working cultures because I just find it fascinating. But luckily, with my current job role, I have colleagues in Poland, Netherlands, and Germany, and I get to travel to see them sometimes. So it's kind of that experience, but not like full time. So yeah, so that was the start. Like I said, quite a lot of business degrees and like business knowledge. But then the first time when I actually moved into tech was when I was working for NWES. They had a project of replacing an internal system. So they needed a new CRM system and they needed a project manager. My manager knew that I was very organized. I think that was the thing that really went for me, being organized and liking to get everything in place and kind of sticking to deadlines. So that was my thing. So she suggested that I apply for the role. At the time, I didn't even know what a project manager did. Like for me, what is a project manager? I remember Googling it. What does a project manager do? So I've done some research, I applied for the job, and then I kind of started learning on the job. I did some training alongside. It was CMI, Chartered Management Institute training for project management. So I've done that. And also, as I realized after I kind of finished that job, I was a business analyst at the same time. It's quite bizarre because like I was doing requirements gathering, I was organizing everything, but then I didn't have that vocabulary to kind of explain what those job roles were and what the tasks were called.
Did
But
you,
yeah,
when you were applying for that job, and sort of trying to research and understand what it was going to be like, did you know that that was a job for you? Did you feel like you were sort of being pushed into that direction, or do you think it was your decision?
at the beginning, I kind of almost felt that I was pushed into that
Okay.
decision, because I was like, I was quite sure that I wanted to continue business, being a business advisor. I was
Hmm.
enjoying it. I had some plans. You know, I always have plans for the next 5 years or 10 years. So I had like a career path, which I decided on for myself. So this was a completely different direction. I wasn't sure whether it was the path for me, but then I'm so glad that I actually went with that decision,
Yeah.
because that was really the start of my tech career. Um, so I've done that for a year, then delivered the project, and then I was headhunted by an AI company in Norwich, Rainbird. Quite a lot of people in Norwich worked for Rainbird. I think it's like going to tech networking events. It feels like every fourth person maybe worked for Rainbird. Um,
I'm
but
one of the few people that hasn't.
you
Maybe I
had
should,
well.
I'll wait for the call.
It was a great company, and for me personally, it was a really good experience and a very good overview of what tech actually is. I started there as a business analyst. I've also done some training there because I really realized that business analysis is interesting, but it's not the kind of thing that I would want to do forever. I enjoyed working through various scenarios and thinking of every possibility of like developing a particular tool, just thinking, what if this, then that. It was fun, but then I knew that I wouldn't want to do it all the time. And especially when it went into too much details, I was kind of finding myself that I would rather have a high level view and be more of a project manager, somebody who would organize other people, making sure that all of the pieces are in place to deliver a particular solution, rather than going into too much depth and too much detail into business analysis on one thing. Some people enjoy it, but for me, I just felt like my skill set was more aligned to being a project manager. So I've done some agile PM training when I was a trained bird. I've transitioned into the PM position, and I was really enjoying it. I got to work with some really good clients. We had some the big four clients, which I think were the most interesting projects. Professional services, making decisions on things like how to pay an employee, how to tax their pay, things like that, and just seeing how you can use tech to automate those decisions. So that was really fun, and I got to travel quite a bit as part of that job. And then after that, I moved into a lead BA role within the retail setting. So this is the company where I currently work, Wex Photo Video. I started in 2020, so it's I've been there for like 3.5 years now. After being a lead business analyst and organizing the team of BAs, I then progressed to be a head of projects. That just gave me a higher level view of all of the projects we were delivering across the business. So even though I was part of the IT team, it was overlooking the projects in all teams within the business. And some things were completely new to me. So undertaking projects in the warehouse or in stores, or just automating some processes, it was very new, but at the same time, just felt like I was really enjoying it because I could feel that what my team were doing was really making an impact in making the teams work more efficient, giving them the means and the tools to deliver some tasks faster with less pain points and things like that.
I don't want to detract from the rest of the talks. I'm sure you're going to talk a little, or potentially talk some around the technology and how you interact with technology in the organisation. But I think there's a really, really important point here to anyone that's looking to get into the tech side of their career. Is most people always think like I've got to apply for a software development company or a website development company. And the truth is, it's like technology touches every organization now, and there's generally a strand in an organization. You're talking about Wex Photo Video there, that most people are sort of in their minds will go, hold on a second, this is a retail store on the high street, and they have they have an e-commerce site, but the truth is that there's so much technology going on in so many organizations. Don't limit yourself. You can truly find your career path that's tech adjacent in another area that you can be super passionate about. And I think it's really important for people to realize that most companies now have roles that are either tech or tech adjacent, whether or not you think what they do is tech. So I just wanted to pick up on that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the point I was trying to make. So for me, it was seeing that tech is present in the public sector, in the retail sector, in AI companies. And also I know that it's pretty much any company that you would be valuable as a tech resource in. So just like you said, just pick a company and an industry where you feel that you are passionate about it. And yeah, there is application of tech anywhere. So I also got to experience another industry. So another aspect was working for a fintech company. That was a company called Lendo EFL. They were providing alternative credit scoring decisions, and that was aimed at the countries where there are quite a lot of self-employed people who don't have business accounts, business bank accounts, or even personal bank accounts. It is in developing countries, and if they wanted to apply for a loan to further develop their small business, if they don't have a bank account, how do you make a decision about whether they have a good credit rating or a bad credit rating? So it was developing some psychometric tests for establishing whether an entrepreneur is kind of trustworthy, whether you can give them a loan. So that was really fun. I was a Scrum Master there, and also I was helping them adopt some agile ways of working. I was doing that part-time, only kind of a few hours per week. alongside my job at Wex. That was just a bit of kind of self-employment that I was doing on the side, because I wanted to explore what it's like to be a freelance consultant. And it was just a very interesting experience. They were working in different time zones, so I was working with them mainly like early mornings or evenings. And for me, it's just like I like having a few things at the same time, because otherwise I kind of get bored. So that was a very good experience, and also it showed me that it's a completely different side of tech, and the way we were working, it was very data driven, that fintech. um, Very interesting experience. So I did that just for a few months, and then just recently, in my current job, I was promoted to be a program and change director. So what I do now is pretty much what I was doing as a head of projects, but it was a much higher strategic view. So I have input in how we're going to achieve the company's strategy by implementing new technologies and also changing the processes. A huge part of my current work is looking at all of the internal processes for various teams, identifying the bottlenecks, and seeing where we can find improvements, because it's quite common that people would be using the same processes for many years and not really have a step back to look at them and see whether they're still fit for purpose, whether there is a better way of doing things. And so those processes end up with quite a lot of waste in them. So when you have an outside consultant, such as one of my BAs, going into a particular team, spending some time with them, doing workshops, shadowing them, it just gives us that perspective of an outsider to just question some things like, why are you doing this? And maybe have you tried something in a different way? So just giving them a bit of advice and trying to find some time savings without actually having to invest in technologies. We still work with technologies quite a lot, so we still have a lot of projects which are purely technology based. But this addition of focusing on processes is just something that we are trying out now, because I think there are a lot of efficiencies that we can make.
I used to work for an American organization, and essentially, whenever we do process improvement, you'd always do exactly what you said. You'd first go in and try and work out what's going on, see what the team are doing, and then try and just simplify what was going on, because there's so much in a process that you can take out before you start thinking about technology. And they always put the big emphasis on the upfront part of, find out what's going on, see what improvements you can make, and then the technology is almost half as important as the first two elements, because there's no point in putting technology into a process which isn't working properly. If you try and put technology into a bad process, you've now got a bad technological driven process. Have a
Yeah.
good process first, understand where the improvements are, and then implement the technology. Because, one of the things we always say to the teams and to the developers is, don't overcomplicate the solution. It's complicated for you, it's complicated for the team, it's complicated for everyone that comes involved. Get your process absolutely nailed. Dream what you want to deliver first, and then
Mhm.
come in. So I think that's a really, really good overview of, understanding technology's place in the workplace, but also
Yeah.
taking a step back and making sure, you know, I think someone mentioned it. We were at an event last night, weren't we? And it was interesting here because you were talking about some of the things that you were talking about last night. But um, just because you can implement technology at some point doesn't mean that you have to. And the thing that's
Mm.
really, really important for anyone coming into the tech role is to really always go in with that mindset of, how do I keep things super simple? How can I implement it in the best way for the team? And how can I keep it, again, coming back to that word again, simple?
Yeah, and it just, the main thing is just asking why, because quite often you would have requests from different teams saying like, oh, I just need to automate this. And then why do you need to automate that? And by trying to understand why, you sometimes you would arrive at the point where you don't actually need any new technology. You just need to change the way you are thinking, change the way your team are organized, or a particular process is performed. And another thing in my role is change management. So change management is huge. So that's the part of the program and change director. A lot of changes that come with introducing new technologies or processes comes with quite a lot of resistance from the teams. So working through that resistance and helping them be happy with the new ways of working is that change management piece, which I find really interesting, but probably the most challenging in my job as well. Because if somebody was doing something for 10 years and it used to work, maybe not the most efficient way, but it used to work, people feel attached to it. And just breaking that attachment and helping them pick something else up and be happy with the new way of working, it's quite painful. With some projects that we did, for example, introducing the new ERP system, I would say it took about a year and a half after going live with the new system that the change management is actually in quite a good place now, so that the teams are quite happy with the new technology. Because,
I
yeah,
I was
sorry.
I was just going to say I think there's a really valid point in that as well because people and change management is always the most difficult thing that I've ever experienced in an organization as well. And I think that what happens over time, and I think this is human nature, by the way, in my experience, is that people feel that the process they've worked with, and you talked about this attachment, it becomes a
Mhm.
personal attachment. And I think
Yeah.
it's almost breaking that cycle of saying, the reason we're changing this process isn't about you. It isn't about your process. It's about the business process and taking away that personal, like, but people do hold a process and a way of working that, they feel like sometimes it can almost not a personal attack, but they feel very personally attached to it because they've done
Yeah.
it for so long. And I can't agree with you more. It's something that as an organization and anyone going into technology is going to be something you have to consider is when you are making changes, and especially with technology, with people's apprehension about it, is there's always the people side, there's always the human side. And actually, I'm really glad that you brought out that change management piece of your role because ultimately it's still humans and a human interaction and it's still the hardest thing to manage. I don't envy you for having to do it, by the way. It's very
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah, exactly. The human element is really important, and having a team of BAs is absolutely important in the organizations. And I think the companies that don't have BAs and change agents, they're really missing out on that fact that there needs to be some support and some guidance following the introduction of new technologies and before the introduction of the new technologies, so that everyone is kind of on the same page and that they are happy to part with their old ways and start working to a new process. Yeah, so and just another thing, I'm also currently completing my MBA degree. So that's my third business degree. And like I already promised, that is going to be my last one. But yeah, I'm nearly done with it. So I've got just the international consultancy project left in which we're doing in Greece in October. And then I'm going to graduate, which I'm quite looking forward to. Um, so another thing, like I said, I quite enjoy having a few different things on the go at the same time. Um, if I just have just a full-time job, I would get bored. So I kind of engage with a lot of initiatives in the Norfolk tech community. I organized Women in Tech Norwich with Leanna and Vicky. And it's like a meetup group for like-minded people to promote and support women in developing their tech careers. Quite informal. It's just to have somebody who went through a similar path, and I think that's where I kind of missed out at the beginning of my career, especially when I was in the public sector. I didn't really have any links with anyone in the tech community in Norwich. I didn't really know that there was such a community, and I didn't feel like I could be part of it. So for me, there was quite a lot of self-learning, quite a lot of self-doubt at the same time, because whatever I was learning in the courses that I was completing or online, I didn't have that validation from somebody else saying like, yeah, what you're doing is the right thing, or maybe have you considered something else? Have you looked into these possibilities? So it was quite like I was on my own, and I don't think that other people should be in that position. So having meetup groups where you can just talk about your challenges and your worries about how you are planning to progress with your career, and somebody would just give you some ideas. I think that's very important.
Super important.
So yeah, so that was the idea behind Women in Tech. Then I'm also a mentor for tech educators and for Women in Tech UK. I'm one of the organizers for Code Bar Norwich. I've started that just a few months ago. So that is programming lessons for women and minorities in tech. I was also a winner in the inspiration category for Develop Her Award last year. And I'm also a member of the Norfolk Network, and I was one of their MBA scholars. So I like being part of the community. I like talking to different people. You never know who you're going to meet at those networking events. And I think the amount of ideas that is generated at those events is quite incredible and cannot be underestimated.
I think just sorry again, just to pick up on that, I think for students going through the course as well, I think this just highlights the fact of there's so much out there as the wider tech community, and more so. And I think what you've done with Women in Tech, by the way, in Norwich is absolutely incredible, because it's another space where people can find a community, and a community they feel comfortable with. And I think for anyone going through the course at the moment, be it in Liverpool, in Norwich, in Cambridge, um, Peterborough, Cambridgeshire, etc., and Suffolk as well, is for me, and anyone watching in schools and colleges, by the way, as well, is if you can find a community that you're comfortable with, that you can truly, engage yourself in that community, in the tech community, you will see what something we're trying to do with these talks is there's a plethora of people out there, all with great ideas and great stories that will make you feel more comfortable and welcome. And I think, yeah, just once again, what you've done with Women in Tech Norwich, I think is brilliant.
Yeah. And I think another thing is mentoring is also very important. So if you get a chance to get a mentor, I would really advise that, because for me, the first few years, I didn't have a mentor. Like I said, I wasn't part of any communities. I didn't really know about anyone else who was going through a similar career path. But then when I finally engaged with my first mentor, it just felt like so many answers were given to me in just a 1 hour conversation, something that I was not sure about, and something that would probably take me months or even years to research and validate in my head. Having somebody who's already done it, who's seen their career path, other people's career paths, and just have a bit more experience in the industry, that was just really helpful to me. And it doesn't mean that you'll be with the same mentor for a long time. It's just at every stage of your career, you would probably need a different mentor with a different skill set. But yeah, for me, it was extremely valuable. Okay, so just a bit more about my role and what I do day to day. I kind of covered quite a lot of it, but the main points are that I get to take part in developing the strategy for the company now, which I really enjoy, because it is kind of identifying the gaps in terms of systems, technologies, people, processes, and finding the ways of filling those gaps to get to the point where we achieve our strategy as a company. It comes with quite a lot of ideas generation, listening to other people's ideas and seeing what is valuable. And seeing the value of their ideas, it's that cost benefit piece where just understanding that we can't complete everything at once. We have limited resources in terms of people, in terms of monetary investment, and we need to prioritize and pick things which are most important and the ones which are going to deliver us what we currently need as a company. So if we're trying to improve customer engagement or customer retention, for example, then we need to prioritize the projects which are focusing on our user experience, for example. If we are trying to generate more sales, we need to ensure that our pain points with, let's say, the payment providers are eliminated, and just really seeing where we want to get to as a business, and the potential project, what will they deliver, what value will they generate, and then picking from those, the ones which are most valuable. And I had a whole approach as to how I was prioritizing change within Wex, and I've just recently developed on that approach. I think it's very important that prioritization does not happen behind the closed doors. So it's not the thing that is just done by the senior leadership team or just one person. It has to be very collaborative. It has to be very transparent, and communicating all of those decisions and why decisions on prioritizing particular projects were made. I made that my priority because I think that everyone has to have access to that information, understand why we are completing particular projects over other ideas, and what it is that they are going to help us achieve. Then it's also resource allocation, so seeing how many developers we have, what test resource we have, BA resource, and aligning everything with the projects that we have in the roadmap. At the same time, dealing with the BAU side of things, fixing of the bugs, but just kind of goes back to the fact that we don't have unlimited amount of resources. And then just overseeing every stage of project delivery, and it doesn't end with the live deployment. It's also the stages that go afterwards, the change management, the implementation, and making sure that people are actually using what has been delivered and are not going back to their old ways. I spend quite a lot of my time on Jira. I absolutely love Jira and all of the tickets. So that's a huge part. And yeah, and communications, like I mentioned, just anything that is delivered within the change management team and the IT team, I make sure to communicate that to the rest of the business, because sometimes IT can be seen as just a team that completes whatever's been requested. But I think it's important to show the value, and what we are doing is actually something that's generating additional income. If so, how much, that it freed up team's time, and once again showing how much time has been freed up by delivering various projects. So yeah, so that's the communication piece. Then the skills that helped me, I kind of divided them into 3 groups. The organization skills are most important, I would say. So I make sure that everyone is in the right place, has the task assigned to them, they're happy with the task, they deliver on time. We don't have any blockers as a team, and also that what we work on is valuable, that the company agreed on that particular piece to be completed, and yeah, the communication and formation, support, and training of the team, that's another part of my responsibility. People skills is another thing. So stakeholder management, and which means working with all the teams across the business, and also with suppliers. So when we work with third parties for particular parts of the system, stakeholder management is quite difficult, I would say, because when you work with multiple teams in multiple companies, you want to make sure that their delivery is aligned. It's not only the time frames, it's also the requirements. It's also just that everyone has the same understanding of why we are doing a particular thing. And the main thing is, in my role, I feel like I'm that connecting link between the business people and the tech people. So even though I don't really have the tech background, well, I do now after 6 years in the industry, but I didn't previously. I have enough understanding of tech to see what it means to implement a particular piece of tech, and what it would mean for the business. So just being kind of in between, translating the tech and business language to the teams, and just gaining consensus and understanding. And the third part, tech, I just put it as 0, because when I started, I had absolutely no tech knowledge. And to kind of prove my lack of tech knowledge, I'm going to show you the only thing that I actually ever developed. Yeah, and that was at the 2-day taste bootcamp at Tech Educators. So I worked on this project, which I called Project Raspberry, and that's really the extent of my knowledge. And if I had to repeat it now, I wouldn't quite remember how I've done it, but basically I've inserted a picture, I've changed the scripts, the colors, and I've put a link in. So yeah, so
There you go.
that's
But look at what you can learn on a tech educator's course in one day, or 2 evenings as it was.
And I recently
Incredible.
actually developed on that. In one of the code bar lessons, I was kind of listening along, and I had a chance to expand on my Project Raspberry. So who knows, there might be further developments.
There you
There
go.
might be, I might put
Literally.
in some more links or something. Yeah. Um, yeah, so that's the skills. And when I kind of look back at my journey in tech, I think what really helped me was the fact that I could adapt to various environments. Having worked in different countries, speaking different languages, having experience of different cultures, it just means that when I join a completely new industry or a completely new team, I don't I don't have that blocker thinking like, oh, I'm not going to be good at it. It's going to be difficult. I kind of just get on with it and try and adapt. And some other things is just being organized, being able to focus on the tasks that we need to deliver, listening to the team. I think that's the human element, just listening to the team, to their concerns, to make sure that it's not just like a top-down decision. Whatever we do, it's not just a top-down, we must deliver this. It's making sure that everyone is happy with what we are doing and why we are doing it. And being non-technical just gives me that different perspective. I don't have that view of just looking into the coding side of things and the how it is going to work technologically. I just look at everything slightly differently, and I do ask quite a lot of stupid questions, and I think it's an advantage in itself because I'm not afraid to ask something, even if I don't quite understand the technological side of things. Asking those stupid questions really helps the team to think of every aspect, what they wouldn't have thought about, because they're just, like the technological team, they're just thinking in tech terms. They've got a task, they need to deliver it, they've got some code that they need to develop. But by asking something completely outside of that area, something that potentially they haven't thought about, gives them that additional layer. And I think that's really what my advantage is. And the main thing is just thinking about the value of what we're doing and why we're delivering various bits of work. And just 2 more slides left. So the challenges which I found in the tech industry, not being technical just meant that at the beginning, and perhaps even sometimes now, there is that imposter syndrome. And everyone keeps talking about it, and it's a real thing, because
Sure.
if you start in an environment where you're different, like for me it was, I wasn't technical, I was a woman, and I was also a foreigner in Norfolk, so it was just like a completely different person. And sometimes I would think like, am I in the right place? What am I doing? Is that right? Is it recognized? And And then a few months ago, I heard somebody talk about the imposter syndrome, and they mentioned that if you feel like you are the odd one out, it's not your fault, it's the environment's fault. And that really resonated with me, because it just, when I worked in the teams which were accepting and they were open-minded, they would try and make me feel more accepted and more like feel better, not like I'm an imposter. So yeah, so that was quite an interesting point. And then it also meant that I had to learn really fast, because I felt like I was lacking some knowledge. I had to complete some additional training. It was a really steep learning curve for me, just to make sure that I have the credibility when I talk to my team, that I've got the credibility, that I understand what we are doing. So it just meant that I had to learn a lot and fast. But then the advantages, I think being very business-minded and very organized just means that I don't have that romanticizing idea of tech. Like, I don't really care about how everything looks in the code. I don't really have that attachment to the code, and I just want to make sure that it works and it delivers value for the business, because at the end of the day, we need to make sure that it generates money for the business, because that's how we're successful and how we all get paid. Also, I'm very practical, so I don't have that creative spark. And originally, I thought it was a disadvantage, but I think it gives me that advantage that I'm not a dreamer. I just think in practical terms, and I just break everything down into achievable tasks, make sure that we deliver, and everyone knows their responsibilities, and also help people reach the understanding and the consensus, because quite often there would be a huge gap between business and tech. Tech says we can't deliver something, we need to make sure that the code is correct and everything is just really smooth and everything, whilst the business would only worry about making money. For me, it's just finding compromises. So we work together as a team. Yeah, so I think that's probably everything that I wanted to cover. And obviously, I wouldn't be able to finish the presentation without a picture of my dog there.
There you go. Awesome.
Yeah.
Ilona, thank you so much for that talk, and just really demonstrating to people that, yeah, the world of tech has so many opportunities, and I think that a few of the things that I really want to bring out here is the fact of, process and communication and understanding needs and evaluating people and their needs. All of these things are so important to roles such as business analyst, easy for me to say, BA roles, project
Mhm.
management roles, and then when you really get into the change management, all of these things. And I think the great thing for anyone, who does have a tech background and coming through is really look at what can be achieved with using those skills, and feeling that need to upskill in the tech. Whereas if you have a small understanding of tech, it can take you into so many other directions than just trying to push yourself down that developer route, and the opportunities that are available. And what a great career you've had really over these last few years, and the things that you've managed to do and experience, it for me is incredible. Um, I guess one of the first questions that I just like to ask really is, as people come into the tech industry or feel or are moving, their roles are starting to include a lot more of the technical side. I hear people say, "I don't feel like I belong here. This feels like it's not a place for me." What would you say to anyone that feels that tech can't be for them or isn't for them?
I think just give it a bit of time and talk to other people who are in similar positions. So that's where the networking comes in, where you can discuss your worries with other people. And I think most people felt like that at some point. Not necessarily at the very beginning. Some people might feel it just in some job roles, but there is always that like, oh, do I really belong here? Another great thing is that if you really feel like that job is not for you, you can try something else. The skills that you have would be transferable. So that was something I was trying to show with my career path, is like from business to BA, then to PM, then Scrum Master, and then progress into my current role. And there are quite a lot of jobs which are linked. So if you try as a developer, you feel like it's not for you, you can always become a technical project manager, or you can go into product ownership kind of route, because the skills are still quite transferable, and you can try a few things out. And I think tech is really forgiving in a way that it's not just like in some other industries where you need to have a very clear career path and you need to show that, I don't know, you were an accountant and then lead accountant, and it's just like a very direct progression route. In tech, you can try a few different things and just identify what is for you. But there are so many different things that I think that pretty much anyone could find something that they would be interested in.
No, perfect answer. I completely agree with that. I think that that really is the point. Is there is so much around tech that there is something for you, and don't feel that you have to know everything. And I think that really leads on to probably my second question. Really is about imposter syndrome, and it's it's really great to hear that it's not great to hear that you've had it, but that you've recognized it and you've recognized it in others, because it's not a nice feeling when you're going through that. What would you say to anyone that's maybe, experiencing imposter syndrome? What would your advice be to them?
I think just try and embrace it. See it as your advantage rather than your disadvantage. I always thought that me being different, well, at the beginning, I thought that me being different was a disadvantage. But to be fair, it was something that helped me stand out. Yeah, okay, I am not a typical developer type. I don't sound like them. I don't look like them. I feel like I'm different, so I don't have the same perspective. But that gives me that edge. I ask different questions. I look at things from a different perspective. I have some experiences that they didn't have, and I think having that very varied skill set within the team is what makes the team great. Because if everyone was the same, everyone was like extremely technical, very the same demographic, the same everything, you don't get that creativity, you don't generate new ideas, you just end up doing the same thing, and everyone has the same thinking. That's not what you want in a team. You want people to challenge each other, ask questions, come up with something completely new, and that's where you come in. So just embrace your imposter syndrome.
Incredible and a great answer. Alona, we have got some other questions coming through, but in the interest of time, I know we wanted to sort of keep this just under 1 o'clock if possible. Is it okay if I send you any other questions, and then I'll be able to get them back to people in chat if that's okay with you?
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
Amazing. Alona, thank you for an incredible talk to finish up the careers week that we've had this week. As always, an absolute pleasure to hear your story and your journey, and to share it with others. So thank you so much for that. To everyone
Thank
else
you
on
so
the
much.
call, thank you. And Alona, I'll leave you with the final words.
Yeah, just wanted to say thank you. It was, I just think that it's nice to share experience. And when I get a chance to share my story, if you find it beneficial, if you find something in it for you, great. And also, if I can help with any questions, just let me know. You can find me on LinkedIn. But yeah, um, thank you.
Thank you so much.